Washington bureau. Let's return to events in Syria. Diplomatic events are going on at the UN. We're expecting that report from the chemical weapons inspectors in the next few hours. But what about the region? Let's go to Beirut for the reaction from there. Join the BBC's international correspondent, Lyse Doucet. And Lyse, what are people making of the very fast-moving diplomatic events so far?
Well, yet again, the fate of the Middle East is being decided in other capitals, in New York, Washington, Moscow and Geneva. And yet again, they're waiting in Syria and in its neighbors, where the war came to them long ago. Syria's neighbor, Lebanon, like all of Syria's neighbors, dealing with a tide of refugees coming across the border, dealing with economic, political and financial pressures. As one leading analyst put it to me, he says Syria's war has come to Lebanon and Lebanon's war has gone to Syria. But what are the pressures here, and what do they make of this UN chemical weapons report? We're joined here by the prominent Lebanese political analyst, Carol Marlouf. Carol, there was a lot of panic here and nervousness a few weeks ago when military action seemed imminent. Now that it's shifted to diplomacy, how would you describe the mood?
I think tensions have gone down. The people are more relaxed now. You know, at some point everybody was going to supermarkets, but buying stuff, stacking up on some food and household equipment and stuff. But I can tell you, still people are still skeptical about what is going to happen in Syria. You know, Assad, since the beginning of this war, has said yes to every single initiative. He said yes to the Annan plan, to the Ibrahimi plan, and now they're saying yes to the Russian initiative as well. So people are skeptical about him saying yes to every single initiative and then going about doing, continuing with the civil war that is looming in Syria. So I don't think people trust Assad at this point by saying that he is willing to cooperate with the international community on chemical weapons.
What we've seen now in recent weeks is world leaders have made a real issue of chemical weapons and the violation of international conventions. In a country like Lebanon, which sadly has seen its own wars, chemical weapons is a serious issue as well?
Well, you see, Liz, everybody's focused on the chemical weapons, but we forget the hundreds of thousands killed by the conventional weapons. So, the numbers are rising as we speak, while the international diplomacy is taking place related to the chemical weapons. The war is still going on, and the death toll is rising. So, people are scared of chemical weapons, yes, but they're also more scared of conventional weapons as well. So, I think it's equally important to address both issues. If you go and tell Assad, give us your chemical weapons, but it's okay to keep using conventional weapons that are being brought in by the Russian regime and by the Iranian regime to support Assad, I think this is also, those are double standards that the people in the region are perceiving the international community to be dealing with the Syrian issue.
But Lebanon's very divided, and some here support President Assad and some don't, so their view of the current crisis would very much be affected by that.
Well, the views have been the same, especially since Hezbollah's involvement in Syria. So you have a bloc that supports the regime and backs Hezbollah's involvement by backing the regime and fighting on the ground in Syria. And there is the other camp, which is the March 14 camp, which opposes that interference, because we believe that Lebanon is being dragged into the Syrian war. So unless we really stand at equal distance, everybody from the problem and the war in Syria, the spillover of the Syrian war will affect Lebanon more and more, and we've seen a few bombings in different areas. So I think they need to solve that on the negotiating table.
Carol Marlouf, thank you very much for joining us here in Beirut in Lebanon, which, like all of Syria's neighbors, worries not just about the deepening war in Syria, but also a war that could also draw them in even more deeply. Continue to watch all the developments from here. Back to you in London.
We will indeed, Lyse. Thanks very much, Lyse Doucet, there in